I'm Dan Farber, Editor-in-Chief of ZDNet, and I'm here today to talk about what I'm calling Microsoft's dilemma. Now, I put a question mark there because, to some people it may not look like a dilemma when you go over the numbers, and I've kind of preloaded this session and put up 7 business units that Microsoft has and some numbers to go along with it so that we can talk about what's a dilemma and what's not. So let me start with the big business, the client software, Windows OS. It's a $12.2 billion business for its fiscal year, which ended June of 2005, and an operating income of $9.45 billion. Nothing wrong with that business. However, it does have a dilemma. The desktop is not going away, but all the energy and interesting activity seems to be going on more on the web. Now, Microsoft has Vista coming out in 06, which should pump up the sales again. But I think if you look out over time, the client OS is going to be much, much less important than it is today. Now, moving on. Servers and tools. Very important business. Infrastructure sells because it powers businesses. So that's SQL Server, Exchange Server, and all the development tools. And obviously it's important to have developers. They build the applications that keep Microsoft printing money. Now, I don't think that the server business is in big trouble at all. In fact, I think it's going to continue to grow at a good rate because they just came out with SQL Server 2005. That's a hot product. Their Revving Exchange, they just came out with a new development tool with their Visual Studio, so that's on its way up. But as long as you're in the so-called Microsoft mono culture, it's going to work. But just as we've seen, there's Linux coming in on the other end from here, and obviously on the database side where you have SQL Server, there's Oracle. And so it's not that simple of an equation, but it's definitely an area where Microsoft's going to have a lot of growth. Now, the big ticket item, look at this, $11 billion in revenue, almost $8 billion in operating income. And that's a really good business, and that is Office. Now again, Office 12 is coming out next year, great new interface features, much more integration with the web and with this set of products, which are the Microsoft Business Solutions, which has not been a great business. You can see it lost money, it's been losing money every year, but it seems to be getting a little bit better. But there's a ton of competition out here. You have Salesforce.com and SAP and everybody else, and it's just not an area where Microsoft has a lot of strength. I think they'll do some acquisitions to try to really double down in this space over time because they really need to print more revenue. I mean, this is a company with $40 billion in revenue for its fiscal 05. It expects to do $44 billion next year. Now, how do you keep that growth going? How do you keep shareholders happy, especially when you have a stock that's been pretty much flat? So they have to have growth, and it's going to be tough to get growth without acquisition here. This area, it's going to be hit a lot by the software as a service, as I was speaking about, where people are saying, where's Office for the web, where you don't need a huge download. And we have competitors like Office, Office.org and OpenOffice.org and StarOffice and lots of little players coming on with word processors that are web only. Now we're moving on. Here's a growth business, mobile embedded. Windows Mobile, they have an auto play as well. It's losing money, but again, it's going to be a growth area because there's so much moving into mobile and having a mobile operating system. They've got a bunch of deals with the phone companies. They have a new Motorola phone coming out that's pretty cool, so I think there'll be growth in that area. Home entertainment, big area, and they've invested billions and billions over the last few years. The big deal now is Xbox, and we'll use a different color here, 360, which just came out. It's a really super hot product. This is a business where they have a product called Halo, a game, $300 million business. So it's just printing money. Now they lost money here. They lose money on every Xbox that they sell, or Xbox 360, at least according to some people who unpacked it and found that they lose about $126 a unit. But they're investing in loss now so that they expect to be profitable in the next year or two in this space. Are they in a dilemma in this space? A little bit. There's a lot of competitors, but they're certainly investing, and this is a company with $37 billion in cash to invest, so I don't think that they have a problem investing in this space either. But the area where it's really getting most interesting is here. This is Microsoft Live, MSN, where they have their services orientation, and they brought in Ray Ozzie, who used to have a company called Groove, and he was at Lotus and IBM where he founded Lotus Notes. And he's a real leader for the company now in turning it into a services organization where services drives through everything. And that's a hard transition for a company that's been focused for all these years on client server. The difference being that on the services end, everything kind of goes on the web infrastructure and lives on the web. And that's quite different from where you have the fat, rich client like you have with Windows and Office. So we're going to see Microsoft investing very heavily in this space to compete with you-know-who, Google, Yahoo, etc. And already they have something new. They have an ad center to compete with AdSense from Google and Yahoo's offering. They're trying to get a deal with AOL so they can get that business for their new ad center. They've launched Live and also a live office for small businesses. And so I think this is just the beginning of Microsoft's attempt to overcome this dilemma of being the legacy player in a world where you have lots of companies like a Google or Yahoo where they grew up on the web and they don't have to support all this legacy stuff going forward and can just focus on what the future is going to be.